And welcome everybody to episode 53 of the CyberSec Cast, the CYBR.SEC.CON podcast, the CyberSec Community podcast. Again, if this is your first episode back for a little while and you haven't seen some of the other ones, we're kind of new. CyberSec Cast, not HOU.SEC Cast. Go look at the announcements. We've done a lot of stuff. So, Sam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
I'm good. About getting ready to get on the road and do a little traveling. I think you did last week.
Right after the conference, no less. Yeah.
Yeah. When we're recording
No
this,
rest for the wicked.
That's we're all recovered, I think, for the most part. So, well, we have got our first post-conference presenter session, I believe, on this podcast. We've got Page Glave, security engineer at Stellar Health. She's talking about detection engineering in her talk. We talked to her a lot, but she's been a presenter at HOU.SEC.CON, now CYBR.SEC.CON, for I think since like 2018 or 2019.
Yeah, she has. Yep.
Yeah, she's been around a while. We really appreciate all of her contributions. She's got really good practical talks, and that's what we like at our conferences, at our events. Well, let's quit talking to us and talk to her.
Let's go.
And we are here with Page Glave, security engineer at Stellar Health. How you doing, Paige?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. We were talking earlier about how long you have been involved with HOU.SEC.CON, now CYBR.SEC.CON. Been a long time, so we're really excited to have you on here and talk about your talk at HOU.SEC.CON 2025, the last HOU.SEC.CON, which sounds weird to say. Right, Sam?
But it's a nice little shock factor that people go, what? You're stopped?
What's going on? No.
It was definitely a little bit of a shock to hear.
But the show's still happening, though, right?
It's still going.
Still going. You're just going to go to CyberSec.CON next year. We'll talk about that in the update. But no, seriously glad to have you on here, Paige. You've been going to HOU.SEC.CON and all of our different events for a long time and spoke at a long time. So we really appreciate you being on here. Before we get into your article and all things Page, we are going to first do a now CyberSec.CON update segment. So we'll get into that, and then we'll come back, talk about your article, and then talk about Page. So let's jump over there.
The CyberSec.CON, we are going to be at the GRB again, September 15th through 16th of next year. So the call for papers for that will be in mid-2026. So keep your eye open. We usually do that around the May timeframe, and we usually leave that open for about 30 days. We do already have the sponsorship packages. They're up now. So if you want to reserve a spot, then there's benefits to being one of the first on deck. Although we have quite a few that have already signed up for next year as well. So HOU.SEC.CON, that's coming up, right? But this is a change. We're going to do 2 full days, and we are going to be at the GRB, otherwise known as the George R. Brown, right? And that'll be April 1st and 2nd, no joke, of this next year. So excited about that. We will have the call for papers that will open in December. So if you have content you'd like to share and be part of that, please keep that on your calendar. We will have it open through the end of December. And so that also, if you're sitting around Christmas and you have nothing to do or just need to get away from the family, you can go submit a paper, right? So, but we will have tickets on sale here later this year. Keep your eye open for that. And we have sponsorship packages now available. So, we love your support. If you're looking to connect with folks that have industrial base and would like to be part of that, we welcome it. And also, lastly, I'd like to mention that we are really trying to get more field engineers here. So as a lot of folks that are listening to this are cyber folks, and you work for these energy companies that have industrial environments, bring those guys with you. Bring those people with you, because this is the opportunity to get everybody talking together and make that collaboration a whole lot easier.
Agreed. Yep. Well, excited for that growth. Love to see that, and having it moving up to that larger convention center and where we're going to have more room and be able to grow that even more is really exciting. If you saw our announcement at HOU.SEC.CON this year, you'll know about this. If you didn't, we're really, really excited about this. We are partnering with Phil Wiley, and he is up in the Dallas area. He we're going to be running a HackerCon, so CYBR.HAK.CON with him up in Dallas at the Plano Event Center. That's going to be on March 17th, 2026. So this is our first one. Not going to be a massive event. Well, maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe it'll go absolutely crazy. I would not be mad about that. But that's going to, like I said, be on March 17th. Tickets are going to go on sale later this year. Phil is really well known in the space. Obviously, just a guy who's a lot of people know what he's done with Pen Tester Blueprint and all of his workshops and everything he's done. So excited to be partnered with him. He's been a friend of the conference for years and years and years and years and years. So we're excited to do this with him. The call for papers also should be open in December. So be on the lookout for that. And like all these other ones, we've got sponsorship packages available right now, ready to go. So let us know if you're interested in sponsoring that event. Again, Dallas Plano Event Center, March 17th, 2026. All right.
And that's more of a technical, deeper type of content across the board. So if you're doing the CFP, keep in mind, we're really looking for the deep depths of technical content for that one. And so just a different flavor, the more of a true HackerCon. So that'll be exciting too, to see how that works out. Sounds like there's already a lot of excitement around it. So, yeah. So, and then we have our CSC user group. So, CyberSec community user group. So, which we do every month, except for the month of HOU.SEC.CON or CyberSec.CON now, right? So new name, so same format, same location. We're going to be down at the Neutrality Data Centers in Houston. Next event will be on October 30th. And we will have Nivi Shirk, who's a business information security officer, that'll be presenting. And it's graciously sponsored by Cribble.
Okay. Well, a lot of new stuff going on. Final thing, CyberSec.Media. Again, if you have not signed up for it, please go out to cybersec.media.com. That's cyber without an E, because we're cool. cybersec.media.com. Sign up for the newsletter. We just launched our first and new ebook. That's all around launching and sustaining your cybersecurity career. It's out right now, free to download. Go out and look for that. We'll include a link to that as well in the show notes. But go up and look at that. I see this conversation happening day in and day out. Either how do I launch, or how do I keep growing my career, sustaining it? So we've put out an ebook with just a lot of challenges these days in the job market in general, and cybersecurity is just there's a lot of challenges to it these days. So we want to help out with that. So that's a free ebook. Go download that and get signed up for that newsletter, so you'll get all the new stuff as we keep building that, because we're going to keep doing these ebooks and keep offering a lot of those for free. All right, now we're done with the update. Let's talk about the article. So Paige, you sent over an article. It was entitled "The Experience of the Analyst in an AI-Powered Present." That's not present like a gift. I don't think you think AI is a gift, maybe.
Yes and no. There's definitely good about it, but there's also some not good as I disappear and reappear on you.
No,
it's a gift like grandma's sweater, right? So, you got to wear it. It gives you warmth, but it's not going to, get you any fashion awards, right?
Yeah. There's some of that. There's a lot of good that comes with it, but I also think we're going to potentially, decades down the road, start to see what the bad really is, and it may take that long to see it.
Interesting. Well, why don't you give us a run through on the article and then dig into that point?
So kind of the basics of the article is how AI is starting to feature in detection engineering, and how it's gone from detection really used to be UI based, and you had people moving into creation of detections who were very cybersecurity focused, into incident response, digital forensics, that sort of thing, but weren't much into engineering, didn't do much coding. Now with detection engineering and detection as code getting to be a much more popular thing, you see more of those coding skills coming in. And now with AI being what it is, we're seeing AI coming in. I think every security vendor out there right now is building it into their product in some way, shape, or form. Some I think better than others in ways that are less frightening than others. And then also, we're using it every day. I use AI in a lot of my workflows as, a paired programmer, helper, and things like that to bounce ideas off of it. Where a lot of this talks about is the assortment of skills that you need as a detection engineer, from incident response, digital forensics, coding now, and also prompt engineering and general AI background, because where I think long term a lot of the AI stuff is going to come is learning to train models on your environmental data so that you can get those best responses and best recommendations for your alerts as they come in on your actual data. And one of the things this article talks about is their approach at Google to having engineers also do triage, which anybody who's heard me talk, even if I'm not talking about detection engineering, I tend to talk about detection engineering and say, I believe if you're writing detections, you should also have to respond to them, because otherwise you tend to write crap detections in terms of what information you put in front of the analyst. And that's one of the concerns I have as we go into more of the AI, is what's going to come out is going to be like, this happened, and a conclusion. And that's all people are going to see. And that's never going to give people a chance to develop the underlying skills that you need when you actually do have an investigation, or when you have something that really should be a false positive and you need to understand why and make some tuning. So that ownership of investigation and just getting people the information up front so you don't have to go dig on every detection. And one of the things that this article highlighted that I think is where we're going to see the potential problems down the road is the talent pool drought. And if you look at the statistics with AI's impact on hiring, the junior positions is where we're seeing it. And if we're not hiring juniors, who will be our seniors? And if you don't have that initial talent development, you never get the higher level development. You've got to build the foundation. And that's kind of where the concern I have. And, I like to think of it as helping.
Well, tell me about this opinion, because I've started evolving, and I don't know if it's actually going to happen or not, but and I've thought about writing a blog on this and seeing how much blowback I get, and people just start flaming me and attacking me. I don't know. But my thought is almost like I'm seeing a shift, or a potential shift, in with the junior roles being taken up, like your junior analysts, like junior SOC analysts, and those having to do those detections and do those run of the mill type of things. Like, if those jobs start disappearing, is it possible that those junior folks shift back into their training to be like IT engineers and network engineers, and then move back into cyber, like I came up with, right? I was a network person way before I was security. Now, that was by necessity, because there wasn't a lot of specialized roles in cyber back then, and I just happened to be following the line. But I mean, I've been advising a lot of people trying to, like, younger people getting into the industry, like, hey, go get your Network Plus certification, go learn networking, go learn those basics, because that junior role is disappearing. To your point, that level one analyst is getting taken up by, in a lot of ways, by AI. You've got to shift back to the basics, instead of what has been happening over the last 5 years, where everybody's like, your entry point into cyber is this analyst role, this junior analyst role. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
I think it works. And I think we are seeing a lot of those analyst roles disappear, whether for AI or budgets or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of discussion about the number of jobs in cybersecurity versus the number of people looking for jobs. And I do think that a more reliable path is the IT route, and getting the skills and learning the basics and growing up that way, than trying to, if you just look at the number of applicants for SOC analyst roles, it's really difficult to get into.
And I think that's a backlog from education for years and years and years. And I'm hoping this is a correction, like AI almost forces that correction for people to go get those skills again.
I think we'll see some of that. My fear with it is that we're going to lose some of that basic understanding
Yeah.
that you have to develop, and you kind of only develop by looking at the alerts, looking at
Yeah.
the data, like the number of IP addresses that I kind of know where they are in the country and what ASN they go to, and it is sad, quite frankly. It makes me sad when I'm like, oh, that's a cloud PC
But do
IP
you need to know
address.
that if AI has got all that knowledge? You know what I'm saying?
Do
It's
you
almost
need
like,
to?
is
Well,
this an open book test? You know?
what
Yeah,
about
yes and no.
well, what about the path to there, right? Because there's going to be a path between where we're at today and where we're at later, and phasing it out. It's got to be some sort of a hybrid role, right? I mean, understanding AI, how to use AI properly with prompting and all that, prompt engineering and all that kind of stuff. What does that look like? Like, what are we going to do over the next several years until AI actually does take out that first entry level position?
And where do you get the AI to know, okay, this is a cloud PC and that's expected in your environment, or it's expected in your environment for these specific people but not these people?
Yeah.
So
That's a
it's,
context thing that is
and
people are looking
that's
for. Yeah.
where I think one of the ways that I like to look at AI as being really advantageous is I think it's great for helping mentor, uh, and not mentor because it's not the same thing,
Mm.
but fill in some gaps when you've trained it on your data and you've given it some really good information on past alerts, where you kind of teach it, where your experienced analysts teach it, okay, with this detection, this is why we're okay with it for this context. And then it can spit that out for your more junior people to start learning as they're doing it. Eventually, does it get to completely autonomous and closing it? I think that's the goal. But part of me is also like, even if it's closing it all, I'd still like to see that kind of summary list and just spot check it, because even things that look normal, sometimes you look at and don't, there's just something about them that's not quite right, and you need to
Yeah.
go look.
Yeah.
And that's quite often what we talk about in the ICS environment, right? The
Mhm.
adversaries in there looking like a real user.
Mhm.
And so you're not, detection is not going to help with that necessarily. You need to understand who's there and
Yep.
what yeah, it's, you got to dig into it. You can't, otherwise AI just closes it out and the adversary is still sniffing around, right?
Yeah, and that's where I do have some hopes that the capabilities that we get with AI and data analytics will help us start to know where, what holes to look in.
Yeah.
Like, this is a bit of an anomaly, or this looks normal but is also a bit abnormal, so maybe look at it with fresh eyes. But I also hope maybe we can use AI to free that up so there is more time for threat hunting,
Yeah.
because
That's,
that's one of the activities that I think a lot of times goes to the wayside because we're so busy triaging alerts,
that's a good
which
point.
is a whole nother soapbox of tuning things better.
Whole nother 20 minutes of discussion at least.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
it's tough.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing conversation, obviously, with a lot of folks. I love the direction that you bring it from the detection engineering specifically, and we're going to get into that because you talk about that specifically here in just a second in your talk. But before we do that, we're going to get on a break, and we're going to come back to talk to the magically disappearing Paige as she goes back and forth. If anybody's watching this.
Like Baron, the Baron von Munchausen or whatever, that, with the two heads that float around. That was really cool.
Oh, that would have been better if I'd set that up.
Just put one on your shoulder. All right. We'll come right back. Talk about Paige. Give her personal history while she disappears back and forth and tries to stay still. She's doing a great job. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, I'm
Paige.
being
You're
very
great.
still.
I know that's not natural for you. Yeah, we'll come right back, everybody. All right, we're back, everybody. Paige is still here. She didn't disappear. And we are going to talk about personal history. So, Paige, what got you into the industry. Why do you like doing what you do? And I know that'll lead into your talk because you're really big on detection engineering, obviously, since we've already talked about that.
Yeah, I have an interesting background. Like a lot of us in cybersecurity, this is my second career. I formerly was in academia. I was in a completely different field. I was an exercise science professor. Got tenure and kind of basically I got bored and it's like, well, I won that game. So what is there? And decided I didn't want to do that for another 30 years, but I'd always been into tech. Like I took programming classes as a PE major because why not? And was teaching online a lot, really liked the tech aspect of things, and started looking at different tech career options. Uh, Started looking specifically at cybersecurity. I'm like, that I can't get bored there. There is no, if I get bored there, it's my own fault. There's too much. And something I learned really early going to events in the Houston area was it doesn't matter how new you are, doesn't matter how long you've been in the field. There's going to be things that you know that other people don't, and there's going to be things that they know that you don't. Talking to people who've been in the field 10, 20 years, when I was just trying to switch careers, be like, oh, I was looking at this because I thought it was cool, and they're like, I've not had a chance to look at that. What is it? And it was just really interesting to see how broad the field was and how many different areas there were. So getting that kind of broad exposure and then going straight into a school district where my academic background was a benefit was really cool because I got to have my hands on like all aspects of the program, got to work really closely with the whole IT department, and learned just an insane amount about running a program, all the different aspects, and then was able to move over to Flowcast, be at a startup that was pretty mature at the time. And one of the things that I really wanted to do as I moved there was to focus more, and I was able to do that. Really focus on detection and response, get into detection engineering specifically, and built a pretty strong detection and response program there. And got the opportunity last year to move over and kind of start doing the same thing at Stellar, and able to kind of do the same thing with fewer mistakes, fewer detours along the way. And it's been great to go and see myself not making the same mistakes about implementing the detection engineering program. And I still use a lot of the skills that I learned going to college for a ridiculous amount of time every day with the research and that sort of thing. But it's definitely a different path than a lot of people have taken. But it's been good, and still, yeah, not bored, which is great.
We've seen a couple of people that have, at least a couple, but that have gone from academia to full time, like Dr. Chad Spinsky, who helps run our user group. Like he came from academia specifically, and you did that for a long time, and then used a lot of those skills to come in. So it's not completely rare. It's definitely different than a lot of people, but I mean, I think most people come into cyber from a different perspective, right?
Yeah. I think especially not now, since there are so many programs available.
Yeah.
Most of us have been career switchers, even if it was from something relatively adjacent, and really, regardless of where you start, the most important thing that I've seen is learning how to learn, learning how to teach yourself, because that's something, regardless of where you end up, is what's going to make you successful, however you go about things. Because none of us know, especially with AI and all the things going on, what our jobs are going to look like in 5 years. So as long as you've got that willingness to learn and adapt and grow, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've seen some people like doom and gloom in it and saying we just need to get out of cyber, and AI is just going to take over all the things. And I was like, well, AI is going to have a serious impact on a lot of different fields. But dooming and glooming is not the way to go with this thing. So.
Yeah, there will be an impact, but so do computers.
Yeah, just to your point earlier about letting AI take the grunt work, where it may be great to learn that now, but then you can go do the fun stuff like threat
Mhm.
hunting and things like that,
Mhm.
right? And so, and yeah, if AI gets there, there's other jobs that we can be doing, other things we can focus on that are important, more strategic, and probably a whole lot more fun to do.
Yeah. And there's always going to be a need to train the AI for your environment and interpret results and things like that, where even now with investigations, you give the AI a certain set of data to have it crunch and investigate, and you look at other things and then you review and check. It's not like, I don't know that we'll ever get to a point, especially with detection and response, that we can just turn it loose and 100% trust the results. We're always going to, I think, want to verify things.
Yeah. Well, how does this play into your talk at all from the, I mean, not even necessarily the AI perspective, but I mean, with the detection engineering itself, how do you, was there any of that? I watched your talk, but I want to get you kind of your take on how that plays into what you were talking about at the conference.
So I didn't necessarily think much about AI for this specific talk, because my goal this year was to do a talk that would be a little bit more open to entry level or people wanting to pivot into detection engineering from other spaces in information security. So the AI piece, I think, where it would be helpful, one of the places that I would look at it is like Notebook LM, taking links as various things come out, dropping them in there and having it summarize and pick things out is a place where that can be really helpful instead of having to do it yourself. Uh, and as more tools like that are developed, as you develop your own ways of and workflows of using I think our speed of response to vulnerabilities coming out should get better. Um, and like, I'm not the best coder. I'm not the best application security person. I know when certain things come out, I'm going to my SMEs for that. But I also know I can take snippets of code and drop them into my preferred work approved AI tools for that type of thing, and go back and forth to get some help with the interpretation of those things to help assess the impact. And then also like pick out, well, what might be some lateral movement or other activities that I can start working detections off of those.
Well, one of the areas that struck me in your talking where I kind of was, I wasn't trying to lead you there or anything. It just struck me as I was making notes. And you said it, we're way in the beginning of the talk, and you even said it earlier. It's like if you write detections, but you're not triaging. And to me, it's this. I mean, you're opening. You basically don't know what happens when you just throw that over the fence to whoever has to triage it. I think that applies to the AI world as well, right? Because we know that AI, to your point on development, writes code, throws this stuff out there, and it's like, okay, we're good to go. I just vibe coded this thing, and all of a sudden everything just works. And it's the same way with vibe coding any kind of a detection. If that thing all of a sudden, you even talked about causing an alert flood or something, and it's like it didn't have the chance to do that. That's kind of where I was thinking, like, how does that play?
Yeah, AI can write detections really fast. Uh, Not necessarily going to give you the exceptions that you need, and that's where people will hate you, or you will hate yourself if you're doing them. And that's probably the part where I think you can use it to your advantage in a lot of ways, is set the agent getting the outline of the detection there while you're doing the research to find the exception.
So, and you, by the way, great presentation, and I mean, almost made me want to go get a job as threat engineering, but Michael would kill me. Um, that being said, you were talking about the very beginning of it about if you write the wrong thing or simplify it like a login or whatever, and then all this noise happens. So how do you test detection rules uh, before before you deploy them in production to make sure you don't have that false positive rate or false negative or whatever? Like, how do you do that to make sure you're going the right round and not ticking everybody off?
Yeah, yeah. It depends on the system, um, for sure. The I think the one like universal is to do your querying beforehand and to check your volume of events. and make sure that your query includes your exclusions. That's kind of the basic. And then this is where I get into the whole detection as code and approach. I really think your detections need to have unit tests in them and be able to verify that they do not fire when you do not want them to, because maybe I'm the only one who's done it, but I know I've put detections in that I'm like, I know this logic is correct, that it's not going to fire on this exception. And then you go to run the test, because like working in Panther, I've got the Panther analysis tool that I can check it locally, and it fires, and I'm like, no, I'm like telling the tool it's wrong. I'm like, you're wrong. That
Arguing
didn't
with the
fire.
machine.
I'm literally arguing with it. I'm like, it didn't fire. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it did fire, crap. And then you go back through and you figure out, oh, this is where I fixed it. And that's where I think the engineering approach brought to the detection world is pretty significant. And having those engineering standards with, if you have exception classes, they get a unit test as you do it, so that you can ensure that you're not firing on those, because until you've really vetted that exception class, everything gets a test. That to me is how you prevent those detection floods from happening, because when you have the ability to test like that, that's how you know you can prevent them. You can do the querying, but until you actually put it against the detection itself, you don't know for sure that it's going to do what you want, because querying is querying, and typically it's a little bit different than what goes in the detection. So that the systems where you do have the ability to actually do testing like you do in software engineering, I think give you a leg up in the sanity department when it comes to making sure you don't deploy things that next thing you know, you've got 10,000 alerts to close and somebody's really not happy with you.
Well,
I mean,
you
that, to
use
me,
AI
that,
for that, right? So yeah.
well, I was gonna actually say that, but not from an AI perspective. I mean, I think even pre major AI deployment, the automation tools that you're able to like create it like a sandbox on or something like that, and just run those things at least, somewhere in an environment where it's not going to cause harm. Yeah.
Dev environments are good. Unfortunately, I think with sim pricing, what it is, a lot of places don't really have dev environments. A lot of places aren't deploying detections to a dev environment, even if they've got logs coming from dev and prod. You're not setting up detections in a dev environment and testing them and then sending them to prod. It's just kind of the reality from what I've seen, and it may be different. And
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, I tend to deal with a lot of large enterprises, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've got that." And then I talk to an SMB, and they're like, "There's no way we could put that."
yeah,
It's
and
the
it's
real, yeah.
and I don't know, even with the really large enterprises, if they're really doing it.
Mm.
I know it's possible, and I hope they are. But it's also, at that scale, it's a little bit different to getting to the prod detections and what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, it was a great talk. I think it was probably it ranked top 5, top 10 all of our talks from a practicality standpoint. Like, it gave real good knowledge. You really did a great job with it.
Thank you.
I loved some of the interaction, like, and a lot of people were in there. We couldn't see the audience from our angle because we were watching the recording, but
Yeah.
it seemed like a lot of people were like, yes, I want to do this. I want to be here because this is something I really want to be involved in. So I thought that was good interaction as well.
Yeah, the little hands-on portion at the end, we had
Yep.
some fun conversation about
Yep.
impossible travel. And is that a good signal in your environment? Because depending on your situation, some people are like, yeah, it's great, and some people are like, I hate that alert so much.
Yeah. Well, I get aggravated at that alert because every vendor uses that by default. It's either that or
Yeah.
some kind of fileless attack that's living off the land stuff, and it's like, okay, can you come up with something else? Like,
Yeah.
I'm a little tired of talking about those two.
Yeah, I think my
So-
favorite right now is VSS deletion. That I'm like, every Windows update delete snapshots now.
Mm.
Like every Windows process is doing that. So can we chill on that?
Everything fires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Well-
that I'm a little bitter about that at the moment.
No, it doesn't sound like it at all.
No,
Like
no, not at all.
Well, Paige, thank you for being on here again. Thank
Yep.
you for being a part of the conference.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, for so long, you've really offered a lot of good value to our attendees, and we appreciate you being a part of it. Hope you keep coming back for CYBR.SEC.CON.
Me too. I plan to be there. It is, it's a conference that I really value going to. I love going every year, and it's one of the things that I love that you guys keep the price down. And it is, I will pay with my own money and make sure that I go as long as I'm not forced to miss because of travel or something.
Well, just make sure those travel plans don't interfere. Like, just make it a demand of any new job you have.
That's kind of it. It's like this is one of my blocked times. Can't travel.
Yeah, we're putting in a request to all the nation states to not have anything happen on.
No
next year.
incidents during this
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. Definitely.
We'll see if that works. All right, Paige. Well, thank you again. Appreciate you being on here. Sam, any parting thoughts?
No, I mean, great talk. It's on video. Got to post it up there on CYBR.SEC.Media, and
Yep.
really worth your time. It doesn't matter what level you're at. I mean, it was great for entry level. It's good food for thought for if you've been doing it a while, so highly recommend.
Yep.
Thanks a lot,
All
guys.
right. Yep, absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on episode 53 with Paige, and we will see you soon on episode 54. Talk to you later.